Hey, this is Tim Jones, creator of the Sour Grapes comic strip, and you're listening to the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network.
All right.
Boy, do we have a lot to talk about that.
Oh, great. Are we...
I don't know. I have the feeling I might, agree with JD. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Not sure about what? What are we talking about? I'm sorry.
About Kraven, that I might actually agree. I might agree with you on Kraven, given, what hints you gave the last time, but we'll see.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I don't even know where to go with it. Go ahead.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey? What? Boy, ale with cheese. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice up my progeny to view of a mighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success?
Hey, everyone. You're listening to Superhero Speak. I am your host, the one and only Dave.
Someone is all kinds of geeked up today. Let me tell you that.
You were listening to Superhero Speak until Dave blew out your speakers. I'm John.
JD, I have to go clean my shorts.
I'm just in a mood. How is everyone doing? How are you doing, JD?
No, I'm solid, man. Kickstarter wrapped up, finished at $2,500, which was 5 times the asking price. Sold around 250, 300, something like that books. I got to do the final count. Final count. But on the whole, my most successful endeavor as a creative person.
Yeah, I just bought the book. I didn't
appreciate that.
I didn't want you to kill me. I'm not a sadist.
I appreciate that. I almost had John talked into killing a second person. He never responded to my retorts.
I know. Maybe next year. Your next Kickstarter.
I'm always willing to kill you.
I was threatening to have him kill me twice. Try to figure out how to do that.
And I said, no, you could actually pay a second time, and I could kill whoever you'd like.
Ooh. Wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. I know who's on the top of that list, and I don't like that.
Well, with you, I would just I'm giving the option.
If I had $50 more, I just.
Oh my goodness.
JD would have been the only one left on the podcast.
You should have reached out to me. I would have made a deal.
At least I know where I stand. That's all.
I am a whore. So.
And how about you, John? Are you whoring yourself out?
Yeah, no, I'm not. But I've started writing again. I've got my trusty little timeline, and it's hooked into Scrivener, and I've got my entire manuscript in there now, and I actually started writing again. And it's pretty cool because you're writing in Scrivener, and it links up with the timeline, and you can see you can in your script mark out where the next timeline point is. It's really cool.
Cool.
So I don't do that in Scrivener because, example, this week I was writing and I wrote a conversation and I went, how did this even happen? So I have to think about this. So I took a couple of days off of writing and I thought about something and I wound up with a 10,000 word intro to the story. That's actually making it a lot better. But I mean, this is why I write loose outlines, is because sometimes things come up and you have to kind of, journey down the path. Like, I know if I'm driving on the highway, if I know where I'm going, but if I'm driving, I say, oh, hey, Waffle House, I haven't been there in a long time. I'm going to go to Waffle House for a little bit. Sometimes you want to go to Waffle House and get them smothered and covered.
So, John, in your book, are you going to take JD to Waffle House and kill him?
Feel free, man. I feel like I owe you, and I don't have that kind of money.
No.
So you feel free to do whatever you want to me or me by proxy.
Besides, I mean, I wouldn't do that unless you paid me. And, but Dave, I'll do it for you for free.
Oh, well, yeah. I knew that was coming.
I know I'd have to write at least 2 books before, like, I could do a Kickstarter like GD's got.
So believe it or not, I'm not a very superstitious person, but I have this one where it's like, and it's silly, I know, but it's just like, you don't put your name on a tombstone until you're gone.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
And you don't write a story about you dying.
To be fair, he's not writing the story about him dying. I am writing the story about him. And to be fair, all John's doing is taking the name of a character who was already dead.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm their alias.
I see.
Their life had to have been really, really sad for them to have taken my name as an alias.
Yeah, I know. So, hey, well, speaking of sad, no, I actually, for me, talk about me for a second. I have had an interesting week in the sense of I keep falling down YouTube rabbit holes, and I've made a decision, guys. I'm going to get remarried, and I've narrowed my future wife down to 2 women.
You have no idea how this works, do you?
And
just no clue whatsoever.
And the first option is Emmanuel Capulet. She's a drummer. She has a lot of like videos on YouTube.
Does she feud with the Montagues?
No. I wonder. She probably hears that joke a lot. The only problem is that she's French Canadian. Not everyone's perfect. And sorry, no offense to our French Canadian fans. And the second, I don't know if either of you ever heard of her, is Samantha Fish. She's a blues artist, guitarist, and singer. And so it's going to be one of those 2. So
you've decided to settle for not living in reality. Good for you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, well, I haven't lived in reality for a long time. I thought you knew this about me by now.
Good for you. Well, at least you come to terms with it. You and your psychosis are now, simpatico, which is good.
Yes, of course. It's done deal, Well, you want to hear something weird?
Weirder than that? Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, it's funny because I started listening. I heard a Samantha Fish song. I'm like, oh, I like this. And I started listening on Spotify, and then I just looked her up and saw the videos, and I'm like, there's something about her. And it's funny because with the last name Fish, if that is her actual real name, because, artists take stage names and stuff, there is a chance that she's related to my late wife. So.
Or she just took a last name that's an off-brand homage to Jerry Garcia.
Huh?
Wait, what?
Wait,
Fish.
what?
Fish.
Fish is a different band.
Right, but Fish was a tribute to.
Well, they're a jam band. Yes, I get the connection. That's just weird.
Allow me to make connections that nobody else will.
Allow me to say.
I worry for your mental health, John. All right, so that's.
I have since he paid me to kill him.
So that's been my week.
Something right there.
But what we really should be talking about is the week out on the internet, with a little social media madness. It's real quick this week. I mean,
I'm having audio problems. Wait, I can't. You'll have to skip it.
So we had talked about Wonder Woman 1984 being pushed back again.
This is the new Mutants.
And we got Helen for
that it's good.
Hochlin, HOECHLIN, or Rain 2001 on Twitter said, definitely it's being pushed back for legit reasons, not because it's bad and they are trying to make it better. New Mutants was great, and it was put out knowing it would fail because of COVID. Hopefully DC is making a better with this than Disney did with New Mutants.
Wow. So we found, that's 2. It's him and Volsker. Mutants fans.
Rotten Tomatoes still stands at 55% for the audio score, which is the audience. That's better than it was doing before, but it's still not great.
55% is a big improvement of where it was. It was like 20, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the of course, well, we don't. I don't listen to the critics, but that's at 34%.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I'm waiting for video for New Mutants. That's not the movie I would risk my health for.
Or pay $30 for it, isn't it?
Yeah, Wonder Woman I might, but that's another story.
I'd pay $30 for Wonder Woman.
I kind of agree with that one. And I'm not one to throw around $30.
Hey, you know what though? Like, our brethren in the Geek World All Stars Podcast Network, So Wizard reviewed Tenet on their show, and they actually ventured out to the theater to see it. So, and they said it wasn't bad because the theaters are basically empty still.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Stuff can linger in the air though. So if someone comes in with the COVID and they go, and then you're sitting there and it's lingering in the air hours later, and you accidentally eat some popcorn, and the next thing you know, you're dead.
So just remember when you're listening to the All Stars podcast, make sure you're at least 6 feet away from your earbuds.
No. So Wizard.
That's him. Right, well, for different reasons.
Yeah.
They had me on the show. I'm not going to critique them.
Yes. They did a good job of promoting you. So
I might need to whore around again. So they're good. They're good in my eyes.
And then the only other thing really that was a comment on something we did. Of course, we talked about Kingdom Come last week. Mm-hmm. We actually got some feedback on it, but the one thing we got was Shadow Walker said, "Discuss the Kingdom after this." So. Is that a follow-up to Kingdom Come?
It is, and it's not very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the reviews for it when I bought Kingdom Come on Amazon, and I was pretty sure we weren't ever going to talk about that one.
Yeah. We're not, like, I believe...
If we run out of comics to talk about, maybe we'll talk about it.
Is this where... I forget if the Kingdom is where Hyper Time is established or not. I can't remember. But yeah, there's no need to. Nothing memorable came out of the Kingdom.
And then something fun. This wasn't something we posted.
Clearly, it wasn't something we posted.
This is from our good friends over at Comic Book Nostalgia.
This is cool.
And they put out a post, Marvel Monday, since this is Monday when we record, and said, create your own Avengers team. 5 to 7 members, open framework, go. And
okay, so Batman, Superman.
I think we do
Warren Buffett.
We do it within the framework of Marvel, though. How about that? Can we keep
Electro Woman and Dyna Girl.
The Greatest American Hero.
Well, the greatest hero. Yeah. Oh, and the
Manimal.
The Manimal, right? And the Captain America that stole a car.
Oh, and the Cape.
Oh God, the Cape. I forgot about the Cape.
I don't know about this Cape.
You don't remember the Cape, that short-lived TV show?
No.
It was only one season. It was kind of horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. The special effects were so bad, and this was early 2000s. This wasn't like 80s, 90s.
I have no memory of this whatsoever.
No, neither do people that actually watched it. So
yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
So are we going to do this right now? We're going to put together our own Avengers team. That could be fun.
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah. Okay. How many members? A Marvel, all-time Marvel, correct?
Yeah, 5 to 7.
5 to 7 members, all Marvel, all time. Anybody from any period of Marvel time.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're thinking about it?
I'm thinking about it. Dave, you're up first because this is clearly something you've been planning.
Actually, I picked this kind of last minute to put on tonight.
Well, why don't we do a little bit?
I think.
Well, I think we can do this. This sounds fun.
I always go with Cap. Has got to be on the team. I'm sorry for those who don't like Captain America, but he's to me he's always the best leader for the Avengers. You always need a powerhouse, and I mean it's so boring to go Thor. But I always thought the Hulk was too much of a wild card. I mean, there's a lot of discussion in the books too about like he should have never been an Avenger and all that stuff. So, and then,
How many do we get? 5 to 7?
5 to 7. I can hear you frantically typing.
I'm looking.
Unless you do She-Hulk as your powerhouse. All right, so we're gonna say, we'll keep 3. We'll keep the 3 boring, easy ones. We'll do not Hulk, Cap, Thor, and your technologist of Tony Stark. And then you can get fun with the other 2. And no, not Black Widow or Hawkeye. See, and I don't like Wolverine or Spider-Man, which a lot of people pick because they're not team players. Let me think.
Yeah, go fast, man.
I gotta go fast? Oh, you got your team ready?
No, Yeah, but
makes for a bad podcast if we're all quiet, you know.
Right.
Oh, I see.
40 minutes of,
I'm gonna edit some of this out, you know. All right, fine. I will say Ant-Man and the Wasp. There you go. There's your 5.
Well, you've got the wife beating section.
I didn't say what. I did not
Scott
say.
Lang Ant-Man.
Thank you. I didn't say which Ant-Man.
Okay.
Eric O'Grady.
What? You want me to go?
Coincidence. No, that was the other. That was the irredeemable Ant-Man.
Yes.
Speaking of O'Grady's, Johnny, you up or am I up?
Yeah, you go ahead, because you guys are the Marvel guys. I'm the one who has to do research on this.
Okay. My thought. I'm gonna go different. My team: Doctor Strange, the Son of Satan, Blade, Ghost Rider, Hellcat, and I had it and I lost it. Screw it, Scarlet Witch. That's my Avengers.
No, you just described the Defenders.
Yeah, they don't. But the Defenders was cool. If you put the Defenders and slapped that word Avengers on it, it would have sold a lot more.
Oh no, I agree. I totally agree.
That's what I would do.
Take the Defenders and slap on the Avengers.
Dark Avengers. Midnight Avengers. There you go. So if any Marvel editors are listening, at JD_Oliva, listen to me for 5 minutes and you'll fire me very shortly after.
But as long as you get the paycheck, you're fine.
Yeah, as long as you get your severance, right?
There's no severance in freelance life. What are you guys talking about?
Oh.
We'll become a corporate stooge and then you get some severance.
I'm trying over here.
Oh, okay. All right, John.
Oh, I forgot. Okay, hold on.
You forgot.
Hold on. No, I'm just changing somebody now because I just thought of somebody. Okay. All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, so I am just going for the team that when the bad guys see them, they just like give up and say no, none of that. So I'm gonna go with Molecule Man, Franklin Richards, Scarlet Witch, Blue Marvel, Carol Danvers, and Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, I like it.
What?
I like it.
Well, obviously the most powerful of them all is Squirrel Girl, but
you lost me at Franklin Richards though.
Franklin Richards is powerful, man.
Franklin Richards, they're all of these guys, like Franklin Richards and Molecule Man are reality warpers. Well, so is Scarlet Witch. Blue Marvel is actually, I don't think he doesn't do reality warping, but he controls basically all energy. Carol Danvers is probably the strongest vanilla. And then, Squirrel Girl, because she just basically throws chaos to the wind and says, screw it, I'm going to go beat up on Thanos.
You got to have a character that we can, like, your everyman character. Squirrel Girl would be fun in that role.
Yeah.
All right. Fine. I'll allow it.
I mean, who's going to mess with that team, right?
No, I mean, that's the thing. You put all the reality warping people on the team. What's the point? They can do whatever they want.
I believe Molecule Man and Blue Marvel have both beaten Dormammu. And
Molecule Man is also a villain.
I mean, you might as well throw Doctor Strange in for good measure.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I still have one slot left. Sure. I mean, again, who's going to mess with that team? It's like there was a YouTube video a while back. I'll have to go find it, but it was basically like, what if everybody had an Iron Man suit? It's like, why doesn't everybody have an Iron Man suit?
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's like, why? And they address it a little bit here and there with like,
because.
No, they kind of addressed it in Endgame, right? Where it's like he made those special suits for everyone and he did things to adapt to their abilities, not necessarily make them adapt to wearing an Iron Man suit. Right,
but Captain America with an Iron Man suit, he'd be twice as strong.
But, it's like you gave Spider-Man an Iron Man suit, and it's kind of like, I never really was a fan of that, so.
Except he had instant kill.
Well, I'm talking about in the comics, but yeah, in the movie was even overkill as well.
Yeah, but even in the comics, given what Tony Stark's suit could do in Endgame, if everybody had an Iron Man suit, they'd be fucking unstoppable.
Yeah, probably.
So, anyway.
But anyway, alright, I digress. That does it for our social media madness for the week. Thank you, Comic Book Nostalgia, for the idea. And on that note, here is our good friend D Square to tell you how you could be a part of social media madness.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of social media madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for #GWAllStars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thank you for that, Don.
No, that was me.
It was me.
Don't forget to check out the House of Steve podcast on YouTube and wherever you find podcasts. And speaking of places that you can find podcasts, I don't know how you're listening to this show right now. Maybe you found us on Twitter or on Facebook or something and you clicked on the link and you're listening to it on our website. But of course, as always, we're available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever podcasts are available. And now I'd like to announce we are available on Amazon Music. Woohoo!
Madness. Yay!
I was reminded this week that it had become open for other podcasts to become part of Amazon Music, and some other podcasters were like, "Oh, how do you get on?" and blah blah. And I went and checked, and it's like, "Oh, we're already on here." So I don't know how long we were on there, but we're on there now, folks. So go check us out there. And on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, we're back. Are you guys still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's what I was waiting for.
I'm off my game tonight, man. That too is.
All right, so we have some news. We have some news that actually broke today, which is weird because it's something that happened months ago but was never in the news.
Really?
Yeah. So Michael Hogan, the known as, I'm sorry, John, you're throwing me off. Did you just send me something?
John sent us an email about Iron Man suits during the show, and I didn't bother opening it.
Yeah, well, why are you even talking about it now?
Because I got a Bing. I'm sure
Yeah.
at the same time.
That was the thing. I got a Bing. I'm like, what is going on here? All right. Sorry. Reset. Edit.
The call is coming from inside the show.
So Michael Hogan.
So Michael Hogan, known as Colonel Ty on Battlestar Galactica by many fans. I actually know him. I worked with him at a couple different conventions. Probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and I don't mean that just because, I like the character. In fact, I never watched Battlestar until I worked with him the first time, and then I ended up watching it after. Apparently at a convention in February, so probably one of the last conventions that were held this year, he fell and bumped his head and suffered a massive brain bleed and has been in the hospital. He has total paralysis on one side from it. And he is still in the hospital, and him and his wife aren't, doing so great financially right now. This has been a drain on their bills and whatnot. And a GoFundMe has been set up by a friend of the family. And I don't normally do this kind of stuff. I'm just saying he's a wonderful person. He's a great actor, and I had a lot of great conversations with him about acting in general, not about Battlestar Galactica. And the link is in the description of the show, so if you would like to donate, please do so. But yeah, I mean, this is just terrible. I don't know. And I don't understand how it was kept out of the news for so long. So
yeah. Basically, if you ever enjoyed any of his portrayals, any of his career, there's how you can show your appreciation.
Right. So, yeah. All right. I guess we'll move on.
I'm like 2020 has got me so down at this point. Like
Yeah.
I can't. It's really hard to deal with some of it.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to happier news. DC Universe is officially dead.
Okay.
Put a fork in it. It's done.
Tell me this. You have a service called DC Universe, meaning everything, which they almost put nothing on. And then they rebrand it to DC Infinite, which is greater than the universe, and they put less on.
Well, just the comics. It's now a comics only service. That's all.
Right. But they just they should have said like DC Galaxy or DC smaller than the universe or DC We're Sorry.
Can we be honest, 100% honest? This is what they should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
They should have copied the Marvel model of the Marvel Unlimited and just boom, here's comics. You can get them online. Boom. Because Marvel makes animated stuff and movies and it's not available through Marvel Unlimited. You got to get that separately. So I don't know. What do you think, JD?
It's better. It's what they should have had before. Now, is this a true back catalog, or is this more of those curated issues?
That's a good question. I don't think
remains to be seen.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's.
And I have DC Universe. I got the. It pinged me on my phone to tell me that was happening. So.
It'll also have. I'm reading the story. It'll also have exclusive comics created for the platform. That's interesting. They're doing stuff for it, but it doesn't say. If there's old comics that lack trades, so you can find them in the Comixology. I don't know. It doesn't tell me like how much of it is, you know?
Right. That's the thing. The article doesn't say that. I've read a couple articles. Nothing has said that so far.
And you gotta wait 6 months for like newer stuff.
Which is how Unlimited works.
Marvel's, yeah.
And then all the TV stuff, all the shows are just being scattered throughout, right? Like HBO Max or CW or wherever.
Right.
Well, speaking of HBO Max, it also says in this that HBO Max is being added for $5 a month if you already subscribe to Universe.
Yeah, what if you already prescribed to both? Or what if you got DC Universe but not HBO Max? I guess what?
That's what they're saying. If you get HBO, if you had DC Universe and they're grandfathering you into this, you can add on HBO Max for $5.
I wonder how long that's going to last.
I don't know. It's interesting though.
Yeah. So we shall see. I think more people will sign up for it now.
Well, now it's more focused. Like before they had like grandiose ideas and it was like when you go to the salad bar, but half the shit's gone.
Yeah.
The ice cream machine is down and you're like, all right, I guess I'll have salad, you know?
Wait, you went to the salad bar to look for ice cream?
Well, like when you're a kid, you go to the all-country buffet and it's like, there's a salad bar, but they also have like cinnamon rolls and roast beef and macaroni and cheese. And now it's like, all that stuff's all gone. All you're left with is like, salad and
the taco fixings, but no.
And the taco fixings, but no tacos. You know, right? You got to scrape out the bottom of the mac and cheese. Like that's what this is right now. Like at least you go to a salad bar. Like, hey, this is a salad bar, and you got the baddest salad bar on earth. But you just don't even tease me with this other stuff that's not going to be there. You know, wow me with your salad bar.
So Marvel Unlimited is the good salad bar, and DC Universe is the salad bar with the broken ice cream machine. Is that
pretty much like that. It's like that real shitty rundown old country buffet.
Yeah, okay.
That peaked in like 93. And it's still around. You're not quite sure why. You go back to it after it's been about 15 years since you've been there. You remember good memories, and you go in, you're like, oh, this place blows. Like that's pretty much what DC Universe was.
Except that buffets don't exist anymore because COVID.
Let's imagine I made that joke 6 months ago.
Yeah, true.
Okay, wait. DC Universe is like Waffle House.
Whoa.
A discount knockoff Waffle House.
Oh, okay.
Because they're copying the nice shiny one up the street with Marvel on it.
Sure. Because only the most reputable people eat at Waffle House. All right.
That's your East Coast attitude shining through.
Moving on, we got a couple previews, guys, this week. Couple good ones. The things coming to Disney Plus. And let's start with The Mandalorian Season 2 preview. What did we think, guys? JD?
Big fan.
A big fan of the preview or big fan of the show?
Yeah, I like it. Well, big fan of the show. Love the preview. Like, I'm excited. Like, this looks like everything I liked about the last season, plus a little bit more.
Everything you liked about the last season, plus Jedis.
Plus Sasha Banks as a Jedi.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
Plus Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano.
That's pretty cool too. But they didn't show us her. They showed us.
We did
showed
not
us Sasha Banks.
Right. And they think that the talk on the street is that's she may be the one that leads us to Ahsoka Tano.
Wait, John. There's COVID going on. You were out in the street? Wait a minute.
Right.
As long as you were
I wore a mask,
Okay.
Social distance.
Okay, but how could you hear what they were saying then if you were 6 feet away from them?
Well, there's a lot of yelling going on.
Oh, okay, good. It's exciting. I cannot wait for October 30th. I'm not going out on Halloween. I'm watching Mandalorian.
The whole trailer where the Mandalorian fires up his little super weapon when he gets surrounded, and Baby Yoda reaches out of his little thing, hits the button, and closes the window. that alone, if the writing's going to be like that, I so want to watch this.
I don't know why the most exciting thing for me was when the X-Wing showed up. I was like, oh my god, finally a ship I recognize. Well, I know they had a TIE fighter last season.
There's also talk that ice planet isn't Hoth. It's the I forget the name of the planet. They think it might be the one where the Jedi mine crystals for their lightsabers, the same one that they mined all the crystals for the Death Star, and the same one that they later turned into the Star Killer base, which Kyber means crystals. The Kyber crystal. So basically, the Mandalorian could be visiting this planet as the First Order is starting up and starting to turn that planet into a new superweapon.
Hey, Don, you're listening to the show right now, D Square. What planet are we talking about? Please respond on Twitter. I know you will. I know halfway through Wednesday I'll have an answer to that question. So,
thanks, Don. In fact, why don't you write a whole article about it for the website? All right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We could do it's Kyber Crystal Planet. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, Ilum.
Oh.
It's the planet Ilum.
Cheater.
No, I'm cutting that out so Don has to answer.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. Edit point.
You know what? No, just block out when I say it. Now, just delete that, and then
we're just messing with Don at that point.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The other great preview that we got a full length preview for WandaVision, and I still have no idea what's going on.
No, isn't it great? This is bonkers.
Oh my god. Is that what's her name? The big witch, Harkness?
Agatha Harkness? Oh, that's exactly who that probably is.
Yes. Well, she was dressed up as a witch. I mean, they're hitting that.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Agatha Harkness, because she seems to follow them from time to time.
Uh-huh.
And the other one was what's her name? Photon. The one that got fired out of the reality.
Monica Rambeau. Yeah, who we've already been introduced to.
And the people that surrounded her when she got fired out of the reality, that's Sword.
Could be.
Very well could be. I like the idea of Agatha Harkness because we have already seen them with the twins.
And they hinted at it before, I guess, but now you actually see the kids.
Yes.
No, I mean, it makes the most sense. I have a slight prediction, and I could be way off. That obviously I think it's obvious, and I could be wrong, that this is going to kind of be a play on House of M.
Yeah, I think so too.
Where she learns she has the ability to manipulate reality, and Monica Rambeau is the real world showing up, being like, "Hey, you're messing things up."
Sent in as an agent of Sword.
Possibly. I think we're getting Sword, but let's not jump the gun just yet. But
she's totally Agatha Harkness. Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah, because
I'm very excited by this.
Because she's the only one that's in all the different timelines or TV
following
shows.
them around. Yeah,
and it makes perfect sense
because she was the one that helped Wanda with her power, right? Taught her how to use
it. This begs the question: do we in fact get our first look at Marvel, the MCU, Mephisto?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
Not in this, but maybe in this leads into.
That's what let's play. But that's not just the madness, but that's what the kids are. The kids, or at least when they were introduced, they were fragments, of Mephisto's soul. And it seems like they're straight up steering into that storyline. Like, this is like, it's like Steve Englehart, but crazier. So, are we being like this? I mean, if that's Agatha Harkness and you get the twins, which clearly sets up Young Avengers down the line at some point.
Oh, yeah, because they were already training Hawkeye's daughter, right? So
Hawkeye's daughter, well, that's different. In the comics, that's a different girl, but they do have Cassie Lang. She is one of, she's Stature. So, we do have hints of the Young Avengers already. So this is clearly Wiccan and Speed. Do we have a little Mephisto action too? I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, no. And then, my son and I were talking about it, and he was like, well, obviously she brings Vision back. Do you think she brings, her brother,
Quicksilver?
She brings Quicksilver back as well.
No, well, it depends now, because that rights issue has been fixed.
Correct.
But she also, the other thing is the reason she's bringing, Vision back is because she was connected to the Mind Stone. Like they were connected on another level, right? Like to the point at the end of Endgame, somebody asked her something and she said, "We thought so." Not I think so. It's we think so, right? So like he's in her head probably, and that's how she's able to, like, she can reconstitute him in her own reality.
Possibly, but I mean that's not.
It's neither here nor there.
I'm going to get real nerdy. That's not really how her powers work in the comics.
No, but we're talking about the Marvel universe.
We also don't know how her powers work in the Marvel universe. I don't think she knows how her powers work in the Marvel universe.
Which makes sense.
I think this will be how we explained.
It makes sense that Harkness is there, right?
Yes. So I think this is how we're going to finally understand what the Scarlet Witch can do. Because we haven't really learned what she's all about, really.
Yeah, be interesting.
Here's the real question. Are they mutants now?
No idea.
I no idea, and I keep wondering if this is somehow her messing with reality somehow brings the mutants in.
It's possible. Like she inadvertently messes with the past to allow them to, I mean, that's some straight up Marvel Comics BS right there, but hey, it works. Like, I'm okay with it.
Marvel Comics BS. I love it. Yes, very much so.
I mean, it's as bad as Superboy Prime punching the walls of reality. Like, comics is stupid. Once you learn to accept it, everything is fine, you know? Yes.
So, all right. Well, on that happy note for Disney Plus, we have not a sad note, but not even surprising at this point, because we know they were still working on it. Falcon Winter Soldier has been pushed back to next year. No release date, just the release date that was on the website was taken down, and it's speculated to be 2021. So we'll have to wait for that, but we'll be getting hopefully WandaVision soon. Are either of you surprised by this news?
Nah.
Yeah, there's been a pandemic, so not a lot of work has been able to get done.
Has there been a pandemic, really?
You may have noticed.
No. Are you sure?
These things do slip by Dave once in a while. He does have, certain things on his mind, I'm sure.
Yeah, like Samantha Fish and Emmanuel Capulet. Anyway.
I didn't say they were important things, just things.
Hey, they're important to me, so they're important. And then our last bit of actual news is that we finally got She-Hulk cast. And
okay, I am really excited about this. Have you ever seen Orphan Black?
I just saw the commercials when I used to watch Doctor Who. I never watched the show, but people I know who watched it loved it.
Oh, she is freaking amazing, and she can switch between personalities crazy.
Who is she? Because I didn't say it yet.
Titania Maslany.
Yes, who is the main actress of Orphan Black, and she won quite a few awards for that show because she plays multiple characters in the show. Go ahead, John.
All clones, and just she switches between dialects and languages, and she's just unbelievable. She played at least 15 different versions of herself on Orphan Black. And she's gonna kill it as She-Hulk.
So here's an interesting thought, right? Doing, I don't know, how many seasons was Orphan Black? 3 or 5?
5, I think.
And that's the ultimate resume for an actress, right? She showed that she could do all these different character types. So she probably, I mean, I don't know. I would think she could pretty much get any job she wants. I find it interesting that she chose to play She-Hulk.
Well, she got offered, I'm sure. She didn't choose it, you know?
Right. But, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying she campaigned for it. I'm saying someone said, hey, you want to play She-Hulk? And she said, yes. Like, does that...
She said, yes, money is good.
Yeah. I mean, guaranteed.
I was going to say, does that give more legitimacy to playing a Marvel character, or is it just about the money? So,
well, it doesn't matter because she'll do a good job.
Right.
Yeah.
When you get paid to do art, that's a great thing. That's the dream.
Yeah. Is it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I mean, this is going to be like, She-Hulk's going to be like a series, right? Like 13 maybe episodes a season or something like that?
Or whatever they do on Disney Plus, but yeah.
Yeah. So this is going to be a walk in the park for her. She only has to play one personality, and she only has to play one part.
Well, here's a question.
You have any idea how much tape there is of her because she was playing multiple people on screen at the same time? Now, how long her days were for Orphan Black? This is going to be nothing.
Do you select an actress like that because you're planning to show a duality with She-Hulk?
That's a great question. So I think you can actually... You have the flexibility to do that because then you can do the savage, quote unquote, She-Hulk and the lawyer She-Hulk and have them both be believable. Big fan.
For her, easily. Yeah.
Right. Because even when she's even savage She-Hulk, she still has a personality, and the Hulk does too in the comics, but they never explored that in the movies until they skipped over it and gave us Professor Hulk. But yeah, so I would love to see them actually finally explore it, even if it's with She-Hulk instead of regular Hulk. I would finally love to see Marvel explore that, you know? So we shall see. I am highly optimistic with this casting. I can't see it going too wrong. All right. Now, before we get to our main discussion, there's two quick rumors I wanted to hit on. The first one, this has been floating around. This has been on a lot of websites. And that is, it's for the last few days, that Henry Cavill actually signed a 3-movie deal to return as Superman to the DCEU. And I know, JD, I know. However, there were rumors that Ben Affleck was coming back, and everyone was like, that's not going to happen. And then, boom, he was in Flash.
That's true. Well, he hasn't been yet. But
and there's a lot of, I know it's not real until it's on film.
True.
There have been talks of him being in Shazam and the next Shazam movie and possibly Black Adam.
All of him, or just his chest?
So that I was going to say, could that be what this is? Is that he's not necessarily coming back to do Man of Steel 2, but he's going to be in like Shazam and Black Adam.
Well, this has been rumored for a while. Like, I want to see a verified source. Like, I don't like rumor milling. I'm not saying it's not possible. But until I see something like, there's nothing in that article that I even see as a smoking gun. You know, it doesn't even it doesn't even say sources say. Like, it's just like,
even We Got This Covered hasn't said that yet.
And they'll say anything.
Yes.
Yes, they will.
I was on another show and they had to cover. They said, well, they were doing a news thing and they mentioned We Got This Covered, and I had to be like, well, you know, I had to do. Like, I forget what show I was on, because I did so damn many of them. But there was like, I had to like, sorry to disappoint you guys, but it sucks.
Oh, I have listened to podcasts and they reference them, and I'm like, oh my god, seriously.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, no, we'll see. It'll be interesting. I like Henry Cavill. I'd like to see him get another chance and maybe be a little more charming as Superman.
Kill people.
Yeah.
No, we're not getting into that one today, JD.
Every Superman appearance he had revolved around someone or something or lots of people dying, or himself. Like, the DCEU Superman is so, like, metal.
That's why.
And not in the good way, though.
Right. It's like black metal.
That's why in the Snyder Cut he's going to be in his black costume.
Yes. It's like King Diamond and stuff. Like, it's so... Ugh.
They just need to give him his long hair, though.
That's true. Bring that mullet back.
All right, and now this one just came out today, and again, total rumor. It does say sources say, and apparently the site that broke another story about Star Trek a couple years ago that turned out to be true.
Have you gone to this because there's an update on it that says that Paramount confirms with us this is not true and Star Trek movies are still in development.
Oh, well then never mind.
So we'll not be covering that story.
Nope.
No,
there is no story.
There is no story. Forget what you've seen here.
I kind of like when a company gets in front of a rumor and goes, "No, that's not true." Even if it's not, I mean, it's them controlling the message.
Right.
Important. So
I would have actually liked if the story had been true though, because I do not like the Paramount Star Trek movies.
Paramount Star Trek movies have all made money though.
Hashtag not my Star Trek.
Thank you. Yes, because they're trying too hard to be adventure action movies, and that's what Star Trek is.
Star Wars.
The last thing I wanted, yeah, exactly. The last thing I wanted was Fast and Stars. Fast and Trek.
Fast and Trekking.
Yeah.
Or Star and Furious.
Yeah.
I like what you tried there. Did not land. You did not.
No. I landed just basically on my face. So.
Yes. The judges give that a 4.
Out of 27.
Great.
All right.
And when the concussion is fixed, maybe I'll be able to understand that.
Now on to our main topic for the week. Everyone's been waiting for this. 1987, Marvel Comics, J.M. DeMatteis. Am I saying that right?
DeMatteis is one pronunciation.
It is? Oh, thank you. And
it saves.
Mike Zeck, artist, and it is Kraven's Last Hunt. So before we got started, John, you were grumbling a bit. You obviously never read the story before, so you're fresh into it. What did you think? Real quick, what was your overall view on Kraven's Last Hunt?
Just my first thoughts before we go. Okay, my first thoughts are basically, as I'm reading like the first 3 issues, how many drugs were they on when they wrote this?
I don't think any.
I find that hard to believe.
I think it won't. There's actually, I got the background of this book, but continue.
But I mean, basically that's it. It's like, I mean, I got deeper thoughts on it, but that was my like first brush was like, it's trying to be something grand, and it's kind of landing like really, really not preachy, but very egotistical, and I don't know. It just
blasphemy, sir, blasphemy.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, JD. What was do you remember what your first impressions were when you first read it, and like what you thought when you read it now?
So, to be fair, I did not read this book until I was probably 26, 27.
Okay.
Because I was a very young kid when this came out, so I did not read it as it came out. But I knew of Kraven's Last Hunt. Like the impact of Kraven's Last Hunt had left such a big imprint on the Spider-Man titles that I had read books for years that were influenced by it without really realizing it. I think like Todd McFarlane's Torment is the one that really, I think, takes the most cues from this.
Yeah, definitely.
And also the DeMatteis Spider Clone stories. He very much picks up a lot of his earlier stuff here.
You can also argue maybe the other, but we'll get into that.
No, you can see I can get that. Like when we get into it, I do have opinions on this. I do like this story a lot, but I think the wrong things came out of it.
Okay. So I was 13 when this book came out, and this is I want to say 85 to 95 is heavy Dave comic book collecting time, right?
You are right in the boom.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was a victim to all of the multi-cover crap and Image and all that stuff. But so, and I think I didn't mention this on the show, but I mentioned this when we were talking about it, is like my main book I collected was Amazing. And then I started Web of probably around issue 30, which I think that's right around this time, right? And then, I didn't, like, being a kid who just had an allowance, like, I couldn't go crazy, so I wasn't getting Spectacular. Which is interesting because this is probably the first time I hit a story that crossed over titles. So I didn't get it when I first read it, and I missed a lot of what the story was trying to say, you know. I bought a collected edition when I got older, and I could say too, rereading it now, I totally get this story and what it's about, what the theme is, and it's like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is very well written. Like, I get what he was doing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, John, sounds like you maybe you missed the point of the story, and JD, you can correct me if you don't believe this, but it seems like it's a story about identity and perception.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's about your self-identity and how others perceive you, you know? And it's a play on the age-old trope that you're the hero of your own story.
I can absolutely see that. What I think is interesting about this is this doesn't feel like a Spider-Man story.
Oh, it's not. It's a Kraven story.
Well, no, not even that. But I mean, like, when DeMatteis pitched this 2 other times for different characters,
sure.
He pitches this as a Wonder Man story in the early 80s. And it's the same idea. Is Grim Reaper, Wonder Man's brother, is going to take over his identity. They pass on it because who gives a shit about Wonder Man? And then later on, he pitches that at DC, where it's going to be a Batman story where Batman dies, quote unquote, and Joker takes over the Batman identity. And then he later went on to cobble going sane from the bolts of that idea that he had 10 years prior.
Uh-huh.
And then he brings it into Spider-Man. And one of the things I find, and Zach's artwork really complements, is it really feels more like a Batman story in parts than a Spider-Man story.
That's funny, because you said the same thing about the death of Jean DeWolf.
I think it might have been just a thing going on in the mid-'80s. I think that's the Alan Moore impact on comics in the mid-'80s, where everything starts trying to feel a little bit heavier, and Batman just fits better into that heavier sane, you know? And I'll get into it a little bit later with why I think that this is a good book, but I think it takes Spider-Man into wrong places. But it's great. It's really good.
Yeah. So okay, let's try this. John, what is something about this book that you liked?
That bad, huh?
No.
Wow, I've never heard anyone honestly, John, this is very much surprising to me.
No, like I said, that was just my first brush with it, right? So, it seems like the first 3 issues tell one story, and the second 3 issues tell, almost a completely different story, yet a follow-up to the first 3. And it's just you can't really get what it's saying until you read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because, you read the first 3 issues, and if that's all you had, you'd be, literally, that's where I'm reading the prose, and it's just, wow, this person is really, really, stuck in their own head or on drugs or something. But you'll only start to figure things out as you get to maybe the last 2 issues. The art is amazing. I love the art.
I think it's some of Mike Zeck's best work. I really do.
Yeah. And, the idea for the story, I kind of get it. And it's ambitious to say the least. So, I don't know. I'm still processing it,
I think it's the most ambitious Spider-Man story, especially at that point in the character's history.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it's not a Spider-Man story, and one of the things I didn't like about it was, again, Spider-Man, as with every storyline that needs Spider-Man to do something at a certain time, it's why isn't his spider sense, having him just wail on Kraven? Oh, I've got a headache. Well, that was a really bad.
Yeah, but that's at least established in Spider-Man lore, is that he doesn't understand the spider sense, and it's inconsistent with how it works.
Right.
And that's been this is 87, so at this point you have 25 years of that being a trope in the Spider-Man stories, but it is a well-established trope. And if your superhero has ESP, why does anything ever happen ever?
Yeah. Well, I could actually answer that because that's part of my book. But anyway, yeah, I get it. All right, so that explains that. But it's just again, I don't know, it was it was just, you have to read all 6 issues in order to finally sit there and go, oh, this really is something interesting and different.
Funny you say that. I mean, like, isn't that the point, though, to read the entire story before formulating an opinion on it?
Yeah, but you could say that it could have been tied together a little bit better, because the first few, there's no hint it's not really tied that well together for me.
Huh. The first half is Spidey's, is like Kraven's perspective, and the second half is Spider-Man's perspective.
Right.
Yeah, I get that, but you know, it's like if I don't know, I'm having trouble like vocalizing this.
No, and I get where you're coming from, because the story does feel weird, because it is so, like, other than Gene DeWolf, like, I think that in this era that it's very different than what you think of as a Spider-Man story.
And yeah, it's like let me put it to you this way: in a really good story, you know, as the thing progresses, you know where you are. You kind of expect what's coming, or maybe you don't, but you're grounded in what's going on, and the characters are kind of where you expect and all that. In this one, the characters weren't doing anything that I expected, and it kept me off balance. And it not just the characters doing not what you expect, but there was no literary way in which you could grab onto any thread that made this make any sense until you hit the second half.
Wow, I disagree with that immensely.
What?
I disagree with that immensely, but continue.
Well, I mean, you don't get, I don't know, all you can think of with Kraven before you hit the second half and he starts like making sense and speaking in complete sentences, is that, you know, he's either on a really bad trip or whatever, and he's like, you know, becoming the Spider. But, you know, it's not until the second half that you start to get the idea, oh, this is not, you know, that he's not just screaming monosyllabic honor and I am the Spider and blah blah blah. It's, you know, oh, he's on this power trip of his own making, and his perspective is that he's taking his power back from Spider-Man, which is still a kind of an interesting perspective that not a lot of people I think would really glom onto very well. But you know, it's not until then that you start to get the ground under your feet.
I find it interesting because I mean, one of the things you're saying is it makes me wonder, have you read any other comics with Kraven in them?
Oh, once in a while I picked up an issue or two. Yeah. I mean, like I said, okay. I was mostly my box when I went to the comic book shops in the 90s, it was filled with mostly DC stuff. So
I mean, like,
I get the idea of Kraven though. I mean, I've seen him in like several different mediums at this point, you know?
Right. I mean, like, the story was actually originally called Fearful Symmetry, and then it's become known as Kraven's Last Hunt. So it's about the symmetry between the two, the hero and the villain. And it's funny because I never realized that this was pitched twice before, but it's funny because I think it does work better with those other characters. Now that I've heard that, you know, like, I can definitely see this as a Batman Joker story or a Wonder Man Death story.
Grim Reaper story. Yeah, I think it could have worked well. What I like about this is the fact that this is an epitaph for Kraven.
Yes.
Right? This is the only Kraven story that matters. Right?
They brought him back after this, though.
No,
right?
Totally they have. And he came back about. I'll get into that in a second. But this is the problem with this. It's not even a problem. This is what's good about this. Is that this is Kraven accepting his failure as a villain. And this is something we don't get a lot from the villains, is how they handle defeat after defeat after defeat, and the pointlessness of existence of being a supervillain. And this is a supervillain who's had enough of being a failure, so he is going to prove to the hero that I might suck at being Kraven, but I'm a better Spider-Man than you'll ever be, and I'm going to prove it to you.
A superior Spider-Man. Huh,
Well,
I wonder where they got...
Well, no, fair enough. But then, like, he does it, and then when then he kills himself. Like, this is him dealing with mental illness and being suicidal and having his one, like...
See, that's what I didn't get until I got to issue 4.
But you're not supposed to get it till you get to that point, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not supposed to understand that. Like, you're supposed to not know. It's good that in my opinion, it's good that we don't know exactly what he's thinking.
Well, maybe it's because, like, I mean, this came out, what year again was it? It was
87.
87. Okay, so, like, maybe if you were reading comics up to that point, like, was there any hint of that mental illness before?
No, absolutely not.
Huh.
This is DeMatteis' take on Kraven the Hunter.
Right.
And again, this is definitely influenced by what is going on in comics in the mid 80s. Right?
Yes.
Like this is Marvel's answer to like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and Grant Morrison Animal Man and stuff like that, like higher brow comics. Or what's considered higher brow.
To me, it's what makes it a great comic is you're not expecting this at all when you read it. It is not a superhero comic.
No.
Right? Like Spider-Man, like, let's be honest, he's not in it. He's not the hero of the story. Like he gets quote unquote killed pretty quickly and then is underground for a long time and then comes out of it and then a lot of is exposition that Kraven's giving to him. Again, it's a Kraven story, so you're not expecting that, and then you're not expecting the end.
No.
At all.
I agree with you. I think what's cool about this too is this is 1987 where we're still used to like done in one books with like, the Claremont stuff of the overarching story. Mm-hmm. The main story is usually wrapped up in 1 or 2 issues. This is 6 issues. This is 10 years, probably 15 years ahead of its time as far as being a 6-issue, condensed story, right? Like, right. 'Cause we've all seen issues in comics where the hero gets buried alive and then he comes up and saves the day at the end. That doesn't happen for a while in this. And the fact that Peter has to face some demons of his own when he's trapped, it brings something different to the table.
Yes. Yeah. No, but I want to talk about that too, the publishing of the book, right? Because that is something that wasn't being done up until this point, right? The 6 issues and spread over 3 different titles.
Yeah, this is the first one, I believe.
And I've often wondered, was that a publishing edict, or was that a writing choice? Because there are things in the story. If we were going to talk about things that maybe we don't like, there are things that feel a little tacked on. And I'm wondering if it was done for padding so that it could work over 6 issues. Like for example, like I understand showing Mary Jane worried, but the whole thing when she goes to see Robbie and then like Robbie's trying to ask her what's wrong and then she just leaves. Like that doesn't go anywhere. There's nothing to that in the story. It doesn't add anything to the story. Okay. Let's also remember what this follows up, right? This follows the marriage. This follows up the marriage by only a few months. Yes.
So, like, DeMatteis talks about how when he was putting the story together initially, the marriage wasn't a thing. Like, there's always been talking about how the marriage was they just kind of rolled into it. They weren't really building for it.
True.
Like, it just kind of happens. And, like, Peter and Mary Jane are together, but they had to kind of work them in. And this is, when I get my chances to express my thing, is this kind of does real damage to the Mary Jane character long term. And like publishing wise, the Spider-Man books, like this, I believe this is still Jim Owsley is editing at this time. They're kind of in a state of upheaval right now because of the marriage. And they decided to make this, because remember, Zach and DeMatteis are not on any of the regular Spider-Man creative teams at this time.
True.
This is a story, this is almost like a bridge story to get us into a new movement on Spider-Man. I believe after this is when Dave Nicolini takes over Amazing with, I don't think it's McFarlane yet. I forget who was before McFarlane. But I want to say that's when this happened. Right? So this is literally just a story to get us from A to B, and it just was really good and really influential.
So they completely voided it after by bringing him back?
No, they didn't bring him back for 20 years.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's actually we'll get to that too, because like that's a big complaint from a lot of fans that they ever did bring him back.
So I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to kill a character, and we've talked about this before about some comics should move on for some of these characters. Like if you're going to get rid of a character, this, the ending of this and the deeper meaning of the whole story and all that, this is a good way to go out. I mean,
it's the best supervillain death ever. I don't think there's a close second.
No.
I can't think of anyone like where they said, peace out. I've shown you how much better I am. Goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And that's yeah.
Like in a way, Kraven kind of wins.
So he definitely wins. So here's a question.
Yeah, I got that too, actually. Yeah.
And that's probably one of the things that maybe bothers you, that the villain wins.
No, that doesn't bother me. I don't mind a really good story if the villain wins. It's just that I think that the first part of it is just a bit weak because I don't feel like there's anything that's centering me so that I know what the hell's going on, and there's like no real. And maybe it's because I'm not a Marvel guy, but there was nothing until like again the last half, the last 3 or 2 issues. And once you get into that, then you start to see the grander plan of it, right? And his obsession with Spider-Man and with being the best and having to show everybody how much better he is than everybody else, and how that ties in with his, I guess his upbringing. But I mean, he's still very mentally disturbed.
Right. And that's
seriously disturbed.
Yeah. I mean, and that like actually kind of leads me to a question, right? Because again, this is a story about identity and perception, right? And it's Kraven dealing with his identity and how people perceive him. And they do a symmetry with Spider-Man going through the same thing. And there's a moment at the end of this, near the end of the story, where Kraven makes the realization like he's not the spider, he's a man, right? Talking about Spider-Man, where his whole motivation was the spider's been in the way of my family for generations and all this stuff, and it's caused all the problems, and he's overcoming his spider. So he comes to this realization, and it feels like, okay, well, his perception is changing at that moment. So why does he still go through with, ending his life? Why do you think?
I think because that's the plan, right? I think this is almost like this, like Kraven's Last Hunt is almost his suicide note, and I think it is mental illness, is he can't handle his mental illness for whatever reason. And this is him making his last, I don't want to use the term fit, but I mean like his last breakdown. And then when he feels free of the haunting of the spider, then he can rest in peace.
Well, at that point, he has nothing left to accomplish.
Right.
So, I mean, he's done what he set out to do. It was all he really had on his plate, and there you go. It's like, all right, I've beaten everybody that I ever want to beat, plus this spider thing that like had been like was at the center of psychosis, and so peace out.
Right.
So peace out. Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess that's the only thing. And when you put it in the context of mental illness, it makes sense. But it's the only thing that's ever kind of bothered me is that, they show him kind of like coming to a realization like, oh, maybe my perception's been wrong. But, he still's like, all right, but I'm, my mother is crazy and I'm going to die too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. I think this whole time it's him. I think this story is really Kraven coming to grips with his own suicide. It's almost like the samurai way, the seppuku. Like he's got this great demon in his head, and he gets to personify it in the person of Spider-Man. So to beat his demon, he has to beat Spider-Man, literally become his demon, and then defeat it to rest at ease. And again, it's a story that I don't even think has been done quite like this since. Like I can't think of a story where I would consider the villain ripping off Kraven's MO here, but it works.
No, and I definitely have seen hints of this in other stories.
Too many, to be quite honest with you. Like I said, I think this story is almost too influential.
Huh, I never thought of it that way.
Let me go on. Let me do the diatribe on this.
Okay.
This is Spider-Man is supposed to be like your street level, the wisecrack character, but every now and then the stakes have to rise to keep some reality, so he doesn't become all comedy, right? So you get stories like Death of Gwen Stacy, the first Clone Saga thing. You get these. Like every now and then Spidey gets like super serious and then comes out of it. The Death of Gene DeWolf, like we talked about a few weeks ago. This one, it takes him to another level because you're doing all this I am the Spider thing where Peter even loses touch with his own reality at some points. And
he was definitely on drugs.
It feels like, it does feel like that at certain points.
No, he was definitely on drugs. He'd been drugged.
That's true. I forgot about that. But what I'm saying by this is like this becomes this story. The impact of this story carries on for years, and like to the point where the first Spider-Man comic I ever bought on my own was Spider-Man #1. I was like 9 years old. It was a Todd McFarlane one, and I had no idea what I was reading. Right? Because one, Todd McFarlane's a terrible writer. Two, it was him doing his his impression of Kraven's Last Hunt.
That reminds me back to John's thing about the spider sense. The hunt. I mean, not the hunt. You just said it. The name of that story, Torment.
Yes.
There's an example of his spider sense working too well, and it makes it boring.
I agree, because Todd McFarlane's not a very good writer.
Yeah. So anyway.
Sold a lot of books. But who's the villain of that? Calypso. Why is Calypso after Spider-Man? Because of Kraven.
Uh-huh.
We had 3 more Kraven kids come after this.
Yeah.
Right? And they eventually bring Kraven back because there's this zeitgeist for this story, right? Where everyone loves Kraven's Last Hunt. The problem is Kraven's kind of a crappy character.
He was.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing he's ever done. And I remember when they brought him back, it was like, oh, great, you guys brought Kraven back. Now you've taken away the one thing that was interesting about him.
Yeah.
And he's been back alive for over a decade and has done nothing as interesting as this story. So that's a problem. 2, this is what starts building in the whole, the groundwork is laid for the Clone Saga right here. Is Peter starts acting out of character, and then they start doing these dark stories more and more often, to the point where we get to 1994, and Marvel legitimately thinks that Peter Parker has gone so far away, not just with the marriage, but with these dark storylines, that they do the Clone Saga. And DeMatteis, who was a big part of that, goes back into his I Am the Spider stuff, which is when they were trying to justify getting rid of Peter Parker and bringing in Ben Reilly. Peter's doing this again. Like, it's almost like word for word coming out. He's like, I am the Spider, And then Mary Jane, who again is put into the story because they had just gotten married, she just kind of sits around and mopes, worrying about Peter. Yeah. Which is fine, because this is the first time it happens, and it makes complete sense. But that's all she does for the most part for the next 20 years. Is it sets too many negative tropes into Spider-Man. We're like, well, we need to get super serious with the Spider-Man story again. Shit, gotta go back to the Kraven's Last Hunt.
Well, it wasn't. It shouldn't have been a trope. It's just that the writers.
It became one. Yeah. It's like everything negative about Spider-Man that justified the stupid One More Day thing starts in this book. And this is a great book, but it's almost like I said, it became too influential. Like we talk about the other. That crap comes from the other. Like the other crap in the other comes from this.
Oh my God, you're right.
Oh, I love that's my favorite sentence in the English language. I get a chill whenever anyone says it.
Kraven's Last Hunt brings us to the Clone Saga.
Yeah.
Brings us to the other.
Yes.
And brings us to One More Day.
It totally does. The groundwork for these type of Spider-Man stories, because even the Gwen Stacy story, it's not this dark.
So you're saying that this is directly responsible for Peter giving birth to himself?
In a way.
Well, that's the thing, because he does it in the dream state that he's in.
Correct. And they totally ripped that off. When they did it, Paul Jenkins does it, and then a couple months later, GMS does it again. They had to redo that story twice for some reason. Like, they did. It's a true story. Like,
yeah, I know.
It's everything, I was telling John, it's like everything negative about Spider-Man. The stuff that people complain about, like the reason we had to have like a brand new day to kind of get Spider-Man back to being Spider-Man starts here. And there's nothing wrong with this story. Like, this should be, a story that stands on its own as this is when Spidey got dark. But it's just like, it set the tempo where every writer had to like ape it at least once. They had to do their own version of Kraven's Last Hunt, like when like the whole Kane kills Doc Ock story, or Venom stuff. Like it's all good stuff, but again, so much of it owes its DNA to Kraven's Last Hunt, and especially with how many times it had been brought back. Like the elements of the story had been brought back. It's
yeah, no, and that's true, and I think it's funny because I think Kraven's Last Hunt is to Spider-Man what The Dark Knight Returns is to Batman.
Absolutely, that's a great comparison. Instead of being something special that exists on its own, it became the template that had to be followed.
Yep,
that's kind of sad.
But it's funny.
It's just funny because The Dark Knight Returns came out the year before, and The Killing Joke came out the year after Kraven's Last Hunt.
But also, like, look what else is coming out. You got Watchmen. Marvel's Squadron Supreme. Like, this was the whole comics aren't just for kids era. And we're going to, and it was one thing when Marvel was doing, like, God Loves Man Kills in its prestige format stuff. Like, that stuff really didn't affect continuity all that much. This is Spider-Man. This is in the 3 mainstream Spider-Man books.
Right, exactly. And that's another thing that makes this so fascinating is it's not an outside story, right? Like I just mentioned, The Dark Knight Returns and The Killing Joke, but they're not
they're both supposed to be out of continuity.
Yeah, they're both out of continuity Batman stories but this is right in continuity. This is a main story. Kraven's going to kill himself. He's going to be dead. This is going to have impacts on Peter psychologically, apparently, until he gives birth to himself again and then makes a deal with the devil.
The devil thing. It's really
things went really off the rails.
Well, then they did even after that. They still revisited this 2 more times. Like they did a story with Kraven's daughter, which Mark Guggenheim of the DC TV fame did a story about Kraven's daughter that wasn't very good, and then they brought Kraven back in what seemed like a good idea, I'm sure at the time. But I mean, what's he done since? Like nothing that interesting. Like Kraven. Some character, and I'll say this for Gwen Stacy too, the best thing some characters can do is die, because it makes a big impact. And I would have said that about Bucky, but Ed Brubaker proved me wrong. And I thought that at the time too. I still, like, there's people that argue about this, I still think Jason Todd is better dead than as the Red Hood, but at least there's different camps on that. So, your mileage may vary on that one.
Oh.
With Kraven, like, what has been done with that character that's any better than this? And if you try to kill him again, all you're doing is rehashing Kraven's Last Hunt again.
Right. And then, another character in Spidey's camp that should have remained dead is Gwen Stacy.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man, what they did to her was horrible.
Well, the alternate world Gwen Stacy, the Spider-Ghost thing is actually interesting and different. Because it's an alternate world Gwen Stacy, like, Peter still has the guilt of what happened, right? Like, when Jason Todd comes back, it almost absolves Batman of the guilt of what happened. People say, well, it doesn't, but it really does, because, like, he's alive.
It also absolves the guilt of all the people that voted for him to die.
Those people who voted have no guilt in that. They knew what they were doing. With Gwen Stacy, Peter can see the girl who's now a kid, and he's older, but he sees the girl that he used to love and the one that he basically killed. So there's at least still some storytelling stuff there, because it's not his Gwen. It's a different Gwen. But Kraven, I just don't. Like, nothing has been as good with that character. In this one, he kind of jumps the pantheon. Like, Norman Osborn, okay, there was a time I said there was no reason to bring him back to life. But they've done enough good stuff with Norman Osborn in the 25 years since they brought him back that it's like, okay, cool. You know what? They mined the character. They made him work again. Kraven? Nah, man. No such luck.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's true. And it's, I think you said it too, like, he was, they gave him an interesting power set when they originally created him, but like he doesn't become an interesting character until this story.
No.
And then it's his last story.
Mm-hmm. But that's the whole motivation is I suck. God, I suck at being a supervillain. That's what it is. He's like, okay, I blow, but I'm gonna give it one last. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'll be good once as I ever was. And that's what makes this story cool. And it's like, I don't know if it's the editors, I don't know if it's marketing, I don't know who's pushing these things, but it never works. Ever.
No, it doesn't. And I don't get why they do it. It's like, just let it stand as a piece of good art and just leave it alone and then just
money.
move on.
Yeah, money. But I mean, like, I don't even know if, like, was this a big hit financially for them? Creatively, for sure.
In the 80s?
I don't either. I really don't know. I mean, like, I don't think stuff from the 80s is discussed in financial terms as much as stuff in the 90s. So, I mean, I'm going to assume it was. It holds a cultural place. I don't know about financial. I really don't.
It had to have been, because why would they have copied it so much?
I think there's a, like I said, I think the creators are influenced by it and they want to pay homage to it and do their own version of it or try to top it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. Like, Torment, like, I know for a fact Torment sold way more than Kraven's Last Hunt, but, you know.
Yeah, but that's when we were in the artist is more important than the writer, and look, now the artist is writing it.
The artist is important. Like, I mean, like, I think there's a line that gets drawn with that. Like, I do think art is, for a visual medium like comics, the art is incredibly important. Some would say more important, but I think there's very few artists that, I don't want to say can write, but can carry the both ends of the spectrum. You know, very few Jack Kirbys in the world. I mean, that's what made the King special. And Todd McFarlane had some interesting ideas for Spawn and stuff like that, but I mean, like, a Spider-Man, like, what memorable Spider-Man story? I mean, other than Torment, because it was number one, like, what other memorable Spider-Man story did he come up with? You know, his visual depictions of him were generation defining. Like, he's the one who made the Spider-Man monster, like, where it didn't look real.
Spaghetti webs.
Yeah, like, he had gigantic influence on the character, visually speaking. As far as stories go, like, no, not so much. You know, he wanted more attention than Dave Michelinie was getting, and he was writing some pretty good Spider-Man stories at the time. Yeah. You know? They got a little gimmicky, but it was the 90s. What didn't get gimmicky?
Nothing. That's
what I'm saying.
90s was nothing but gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't stopped.
I think the 2000s, it got to be more about, you know, the story again. Now I'm not so sure anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, John,
yeah.
So have you have you been digesting what we're saying and thinking about the story?
I get it. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like it. It's just that, you know, I felt a little bit unmoored until I hit the last part.
But that's the point.
Well, okay, fine. If it wants to bring me on the trip, that's good too. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad story. But I get it. It's one of the better written I've ever read. But.
I get it that you don't quite connect with it either, though, because like I do think the story, as well it should be, so outside the norm of what a Spider-Man story should be. Like, for as successful as Kraven's Last Hunt is, I don't think it's ever been adapted into any other form of media.
Yeah, and again, like you were saying, it's a Kraven story, not a Spider-Man story. So, you know, like, you're missing all of the quipping and the upbeat part and all that. It's really
that wouldn't fit though in the story they're trying to tell.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's what I was used to going into it, right?
Right.
That's one of the things too, where it's like they talk about. I've seen people post this online, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Where they're like, "Oh, what they should do for the next Spider-Man movie?" And people are like, "Oh, they should bring in Kraven to do Kraven's Last Hunt." And it's like, have you even read the story? Like, they're not going to introduce a character with no backstory and then have him kill himself at the end. Like, it just won't work.
Kraven's Last Hunt would work really well as a Netflix TV show.
Possibly.
Like season 3 of like the Spider-Man TV show.
Yes, where they've introduced Kraven a little bit in one of the early seasons. Yeah, and they brought him back. I could see that. That's
the only way it works. Because like if you don't establish, like, you're right, if you just bring in Kraven to have him kill himself, what's the point? Right? And if you change it, then again, what's the point? You know, it's not, I'm saying that's why this story I don't think even the 90s cartoon adapted it. Like, I don't think it's ever really been, and it's weird because it's largely considered one of the best Spider-Man stories ever written, but it's never come out of this format. It's never been anything.
And also, though, like you said animated series, cartoon, like, it's so dark. How could you do this in a cartoon? Like, you couldn't have vermin in it.
No, God, no.
Oh, God, yeah. Cannibalism?
And then, but I mean, there's the symbolism of him being the man and animal, concept, and that's like he's the bridge between Spider-Man and Kraven, and it's just like, but does that,
Yeah, he's also what you become if you go too far into the
Right.
animal,
Right.
Like and again, that totally doesn't work. So like I said, it's not really a Spider-Man story.
No, it's not. Not at all. Oh my God.
But it's also not a bad story.
No, it's a great story. That's the problem.
It is, and it is a problem with it, to be honest with you. It's a problem that it's had too much of it, and I think that its impact has lessened with future generations, but definitely in the 90s and 2000s, it was too influential.
So before we wrap up our final thoughts on it, I did reach out to our fans to ask them what they thought of the story, and so Uncle Redbeard, he said, my favorite Spider story so far, by far. I was probably 10 when it came out, had every related issue. Vermin was creepy, Kraven was crazy, and thinking that Spider-Man was dead, soul-crushing. And let's not forget one of the most iconic covers of all time. And then it's the picture of him coming out of the grave. Which, that's true too. Like, you see him shoot Spider-Man, and then we don't see we see the grave. You don't know if he's coming back.
No.
So, I can't imagine being 10 and reading it and thinking like, oh, Spider-Man's not coming back.
Especially when you don't know that gimmicks. You don't get story gimmicks.
Right. Pino Comics said, great story, so dark for a Spidey story, but naturally dark story tone, not plopped on violence just to be dark. Not plopped on violence just to be dark. Okay.
I agree with that.
Ghost of the Stratosphere said, it's very, very good, but its unofficial sequel, The Child Within, may be even better.
That is the Aunt May death story, I believe.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Let me make sure I know. Child Within, right?
Yes. While you're looking that up, So Wizard said it's an absolute classic, but it's also not a good jump on point for a casual reader.
That's where we are with John.
Exactly.
Yep.
Gorilla Brain said, one of my favorite stories of Spider-Man. Geek to Me Radio said, easily one of the greatest Spidey stories ever told. One of my prized possessions is the original promo poster signed by J.M. DeMatteis and Bob McLeod and Mike Zeck. Oh, and Jim Shooter and Jim Salicrop, framed and hanging in my office.
Nice.
That's right. This is the story where Harry dies.
What, The Child Within?
Shocking Heartbreak. I believe so. Maybe I'm wrong.
JVD of Villains Demand said, the better question is why did Marvel have to go and ruin it?
Okay, JVD, my man, I want to know exactly I know you listen to this, I want to know exactly what you mean by that.
To the longtime comic fan, Kraven had a death that stuck and meant something because for years we had seen characters one after another die and come back a short time later. What makes it worse is he's resurrected and we find out in Hunted all those apprentices might not be him. Oh, might not be him. So I asked him how so, and that was his response.
Oh, never mind.
And Neil Cled said, I think I love it. Also, the novelization, so there you go. There's another form. There's a novelization of the book. I did not know existed, but I don't normally need novelizations of superhero books, except, I have read, well, no, it's not a novel. It's just a Spider-Man novel, The Darkest Hours by Jim Butcher. And,
it's hard to get the same feel from the same story in long form and in comic form. Like, it's very hard to do that, right? Because
different mediums.
Yeah. There's again, like the first part of this would not, how are you going to write that in novel form?
Dude, it basically is written in novel form. It's very heavy on the prose.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's
but it's in novel form. It would take up 10, 12 pages.
No, because all the images now become descriptions of what's going on, and that.
Yeah, but it would be mostly description, right?
I mean, it's 140 pages as a comic book.
Right. This could easily be a 300-400 page novel, if not longer. To be honest with you. Maybe even 5-6. I mean, there's a lot going on.
And we got one reply on Facebook. Brad Mendenhall said, I remember reading it when it came out, and I hated it. The art was great, but the writing tried too hard and didn't feel like Spider-Man. Would have worked better as a Daredevil arc. The sequel, Soul of the Hunter, was much better and refocused the story on Spidey.
Do you see what I'm saying?
If it had been Daredevil, though, I would have identified with that better.
And
Again,
this is,
yeah.
But okay, a couple things. One, we have 3 different people who named 3 different sequel stories to this. And then 2, if it's a Daredevil story, it's another Daredevil story.
Yes, exactly. That's why it stands out as a Spidey story. And he comes off as the casual reader again, who loves Spider-Man, wants to see Spider-Man running around fighting and beating up the bad guys, and that's not what this story is.
My man here is why we had to have Brand New Day. It's true. Because there's a lot of people, this isn't Spider-Man. And like I said, if this exists in 1987 on its own, sweet. But we had to have 10 of them.
Yeah, this is true. See, Brad, it's all your fault. All right. Let's wrap up this discussion then.
Yeah, because this has gone long, man.
And we'll start with John. Your final thoughts on the story overall, and would you recommend it to people?
I'd recommend it with a disclaimer, but like I said, tell them don't start thinking really deeply about it until you hit the fourth book, and then overall I'd give it an 8. I get why this is considered a classic.
Okay.
So
all right, JD.
It's a 9, but in a vacuum. It's a 9 for what it is. It's the best written Spidey story possibly ever, but it's because it's different, right? Because of what I can't blame this. I can't blame other people for just ripping other stuff off. No, it's a great story. It's a 9.
Yeah. I'll second your 9. I highly recommend it. It isn't for the casual reader. It isn't
for kids.
It isn't for kids at all. It's a different take. And again, it's not a Spider-Man story. It is it's the villain's story, and it's one of those things that I love about comic books. And you can do different things and take them in different directions every once in a while, and give you a story that makes you think. Like I said in the beginning, this is a story about identity and perception, and it makes you think about, how does the world perceive me? I perceive myself as a hero, but am I being perceived as the villain? And, what does that do to me in my life? All the best stories do something like that. So, if you want something that's going to make you think and you like Spider-Man, you're familiar with Kraven and Vermin, you definitely should check this story out. Don't let your kids read it, because it might warp them. All right. So that is the Kraven's Last Hunt. So we have a special bonus. I know this episode's a little long, but we actually interviewed oh my God, JM. I can't remember.
JM DeMatteis, writer of Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, well, I don't know why I can't remember his name. We actually interviewed him back in 2018, and I came to a terrible realization. We never released that interview. So stay tuned at the end, and you will hear our interview with him from New York Comic Con in 2018. Especially if you're missing cons right now, this will give you that convention feel, I think, a little bit. So stick around for that. All right. On that note, do you guys have any recommendations for our audience this week? JD?
It's G1 season, man. The New Japan's G1 tournament has started. If you like pro wrestling but don't like the goofiness, or if you're interested in pro wrestling but again you don't like the angles and the soap opera elements of it, let me recommend New Japan Pro Wrestling. Right now on their New Japan World streaming service, we have our G1, which is you have 2 blocks of 10 dudes. They all have to wrestle each other, and then they will fight in the championship in October for a chance to be in the main event at Wrestle Kingdom in January. This is my favorite time of year. The matches are always great. And it's a reason I have to stay up till 3-4 in the morning every night for the next month.
Wow.
Cool. John?
I literally have nothing to recommend. I've been working so much, I haven't had a chance to do almost anything. So I don't know. Go to Death Battle. They had a live action death battle between the Winter Soldier and Red Hood.
Oh, we actually got a message from a fan on Twitter that said we need to go check out the latest Death Battle. So
yeah, it's a live action battle between Red Hood and the Winter Soldier. They did a really good job with it.
Cool. I'm trying to find that message as
the last time, the only other time they've done a live action battle for Death Battle was Daredevil and Robin, Nightwing. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't say your name because I can't find the message right now. But yes, so obviously I will check that out. Cool. I will recommend that everyone go to superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast every week and comic reviews by our good friend D Square. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you find podcasts, and Amazon Music now. But in all seriousness, like I said, I've been falling down some YouTube rabbit holes, and if you like blues music, and this isn't because she's my future wife, I highly recommend Samantha Fish. She's been around for probably about 10 years now, and she's a guitarist and singer, and she has like a 3-piece band that she travels with, and they're really good, really great music, and yeah. That's my recommendation. Check her out. So she doesn't need my little podcast recommending her because she's probably pretty successful already. But I just found her and I like her. So all right. On that note, boys and girls, I will say, as always, I'm gonna say, don't forget to stick around for the interview. But as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.
Thank you very much. But on the subject of comics, let's just talk about Spider-Man. I don't think we can, but I mean, if I ever got you alone for an hour. But in any case, on the subject of comics, what Constantine comics, influenced you with this movie?
Well, two things. One is I wrote Justice League Dark comic for a couple of years, just really not long before I started working on this. And then the template, the basic foundation for this story was a graphic novel by Mike Carey and Leonardo Maffa called All His Engines. So we use that as our sort of our foundation and then build our story out from there. So if you know the graphic novel, you'll see the basic beats that you know from the graphic novel, but there's a whole lot of other stuff going on within the story. We pulled from other Constantine stories. I pulled a few things from my Justice League Dark runs, created some new things, and then put it all together into a new story.
What are some of the challenges of writing Constantine?
I didn't find a lot of challenges. Oh, no, I'll take that back. At first, the hardest thing about Constantine is that he's got this hard shell on the outside, you know what I mean? Right. And he's a bastard, and he's manipulative, and he's this, and he's that. And if the story is just going to focus on that aspect of his character, that's not a story I can write, because there's nothing else going on underneath that. Right. The thing I really enjoyed about this story is that it's about that outer layer of Constantine, and because Chaz is there, and Chaz is so important to the story, it gets to the whole other layers of their connection and who he's hiding behind that shell. And something you don't hear a lot of, where Constantine is involved, his vulnerability. And in a lot of ways, his biggest vulnerability is this guy who was his best friend since they were kids. And that allowed the story to open up emotionally in a way that maybe you can't always do with Constantine.
You've written comics for years. How different is it doing a comic script as it would be for an animated script like for Constantine?
The formats are different, and when you first, the first time I ever wrote in a screenplay format, you're thinking a lot about the format, because you have to learn it, and all this, you can't do that because it's not a comic book, I have to do this, I have to do that, and you can't do too much interior monologue because it's not that kind of thing, it's all about the... But after a certain point, that goes from your head to your intuition, so you don't think about the format anymore, and it really is just about the story. So whether you're going to write a novel, you're going to write a screenplay, you're going to write a comic book, whatever it may be, you're serving the story. And once you learn the form, you don't think about the form anymore. I've been doing comics so long, I don't think about how to put a comic together. I just know how to put a comic together. Good, bad, or indifferent, but I know I just work with the form naturally. And the focus is on the story, not the form.
You obviously had a lot of animated experience, And I was going to ask you something about Constantine, but now I'm wondering, with the Green Lantern fans, are you trying to subtly hint that there's
I have this one shirt that needs cufflinks, and a few years ago my wife went out and got me some cool cufflinks, and I love Green Lantern. There's no hint, there's no nothing.
The world could use the world could use a Sinestro Corps animated movie. But you obviously had the opportunity to write Constantine in Justice League Dark, and you talked about the process of writing the character already. But how did you approach this second story? Were there any lessons you learned of writing Constantine for that animated movie?
The difference for me was simply that I wasn't coming to the character cold. You know, once you write a character, you get a sense of them. It's the old cliche, but it's true. They become real to you. So you get to know them almost the way you get to know a person. So I think if I had not done my run on Justice League Dark and had not immersed myself in Constantine there, I would have had to learn a lot. And, you know, I mean, you have to do a lot of research for these things anyway, because I don't know the whole history of Constantine for the past 35 years, you know. So you're on Wikipedia and they're sending you graphic novels and you're burying yourself in this. But having written the character, I felt like I knew him. And this particular story, though, was an opportunity, since it really is very true to the Constantine that we knew from like the Vertigo era, to really go deep and dark and psychological and metaphysical. And so it took me to a whole new level with the character. But I had that familiarity to allow me to jump into this, as opposed to walking in cold and going, oh man, what am I going to do? I got to figure out who this guy is.
Talk about John's vulnerability, how he's affected by Chaz, but in what way? Yeah, and how he's affected.
There's a lot of ambient noise.
Yeah, but in what way do you feel is the main way that Chaz impacts John or helps him?
One of the things that I love is that we got to go back a little bit in here, as you'll see, and talk about their childhood and talk about who they were to each other and how they kind of complemented each other. You know, in a lot of ways, Chaz is everything that John isn't. He's sweet, he's vulnerable, he is decent, and yet they need each other for that, because Chaz needs that daring in his life, that danger that he doesn't bring to his own life, and John needs that vulnerability and that decency. And so the dynamic between the two of them is great, and it's really the emotional thread that carries through the entire movie. And there would be no movie without that relationship, because without that, it's just a lot of stuff happening. You know, it's that emotional core between them, and the fact that Chaz's daughter is threatened, and what John has to go through, and what Chaz has to go through to get her back. And as you'll see at the end, which I don't want to give anything away, but there's some really, really powerful emotional moments at the end. And you don't always think of Constantine as the character where you get big, vulnerable, emotional moments, but this story really does give you that.
I asked an earlier question about why the setting in Los Angeles. Obviously, you pulled the line from the eyes of the city are on me. Was there more to it than that about why mostly Constantine is in these exotic locations and now he's just in Los Angeles?
We said we want to adapt this from this graphic novel. And that's what happened in the graphic novel, so that made the decision for me. You know, and it was interesting because it takes him out of his comfort zone. You know, that also makes him more vulnerable, because he's not. There's a line somewhere where he says, you know, he knows London inside and out. He knows every little nook and corner and cranny, every dark corner of its psyche. Los Angeles is something completely different. So to have the actual embodiment of Los Angeles appear to him made for an interesting dynamic as well.
You've been speaking very passionately about this story. It seems you put a lot into it.
Yeah.
What do you want people to take from it when they watch it?
You know, hopefully the same things that I take from the stories and the movies that I love, which is an experience that first and foremost touches you, you know, and moves you emotionally and takes you on an emotional journey and makes you think as well, you know. But for me, it's this story in particular, it's the emotional journey, because we deal, without giving too much away, with sort of John's original sin, and part of this journey, aside from the journey with Chaz and trying to get Chaz's daughter back, is a redemption arc for John too, as well. So there's a lot of emotional material in there, and it really peels the character apart, I think, in new ways. And I hope more than anything people get an emotional journey out of the story.
While I have the opportunity, I know we're supposed to talk about Constantine, but you're sure in your hat, I have to ask. Kraven's Last Hunt is one of my favorites. And so I was just wondering, it's announced that Kraven is going to get his own movie in the Venomverse, which is presumably without Spider-Man. I was wondering, two-part question, one for work, one for just my own knowledge. What do you think of that? And the second part is, did you ever read the follow-up to your story, Grim Hunt?
What do I think of it? In the end, I can't think anything of it until they make a movie. Because, it's like people freak out about hearing an idea for a movie, or they see like a 30-second trailer and decide it's a disaster. I can't do that until I see the thing. And the second question was?
Did you ever read Grim Hunt?
When Grim Hunt came out, there were a series of backup stories that I wrote along with that story. Kraven stayed dead for 25 years? Something crazy like that. So I take a lot of pride that they didn't bring him back too quick. And I thought they did a really nice job of it. I thought it was a good, strong, solid story. Would part of me have wanted that to be the end and have him be dead forever? Sure. It's not the way it works in superhero comics. These characters have to go on and on and on and on. That he stayed dead that long was a great achievement.
They just kept on giving him sons that looked like him. They should have just kept with that.
Yeah,
they didn't need the original one.
I gave him one of the sons too, I know.
You have a reputation for really digging into the psyches of your characters. So on that level, what is it that sets Constantine apart from, say, a Spider-Man or a Batman?
Kind of what we've been talking about is that inattention. Spider-Man is a very complex and real character. I wrote so many Spider-Man stories. I love that character. But he doesn't have that same tension that Constantine has. That war between the hard-ass, and he is a hard-ass manipulative bastard. But he's also something else that's hidden behind that shell, And it's always the tension between those two things. If he was just a hard-edged, emotional bastard, he wouldn't be an interesting character, at least to me. Some people like that, but I don't want characters that are one-dimensional. We want something that's multi-dimensional and some inner conflict in the character. And he has such interesting inner conflict there. I just keep saying. So he's selfish, he's hard, he can be cruel, and yet in the end he always comes out on the side of the light. So there's something else going on in there. Or he could just say screw it, make the deal with the devil and give up, But he doesn't. He never does. And that's what makes him interesting to me.
I was going to say, one of the fun things about the Justice League Dark animated movie was him and Batman as his foil. If you had the chance to take Constantine and pair him up with any character that would kind of add some more depth to Constantine, who do you think you'd do?
That's interesting. I was going to say Nort, but Constantine and Larfleeze. Now I won't be able to get that out of my head. I don't know. Sometimes the danger is when you take characters from one world and bring them into another. It was a delicate balance to have Constantine and Batman together, because Batman is as dark as you're going to get in the superhero side of things, but it's still almost another universe than the supernatural universes. So
they're teaming up in a book right now.
Batman and Constantine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Batman Damned.
Well, there you go. And I guess it's all the approach to the story, really. But certainly Batman. But what I loved was in the comics was in Justice League Dark, the dynamic of John and Zatanna. I really enjoyed playing with that and their relationship. And it was the same thing. I don't love you except that I love you, but I don't love you. And there's that tension again.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
Okay.
You talked earlier about the story that loosely inspired this. Are there any other Hellblazer or Constantine stories that you would love to adapt?
What I would like to do, if they ever did another one, there's one pivotal. Well, I guess they've done this. I don't want to give anything away. Damn. The backstory with Astra Loeb. Which is really the inciting incident, as they say, of his whole career in life, and that he lost this girl to that demon all those years before. And that's one of the things that's going on with him rescuing Chaz's daughter as a way to atone where I was screwed up years before. I would like to see the resolution of that storyline. A Journey to Hell, And can he get her back? And finally, after all these years, get her back. And I think in the comics they eventually did get her back. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of all 35 years of Constantine, but I think that would be a great story to tell.
I guess because he was signaling, but okay. Again, because you are a writer who's known for getting to the core and the psyche of characters, is there anyone you haven't written yet that you would think would be a challenge and you'd like to take on?
That's a tough one because between the animated stuff and my comic book work, I've probably written 95% of these characters, you know? But that doesn't mean you can't revisit them.
Right.
You know, I love the DC supernatural characters. I love, that corner of the. That's why I was so happy that they did the Justice League Dark movie.
Right.
Because that corner of the DC universe, Swamp Thing, Spectre, Phantom Stranger, all these Deadman, all these wonderful characters. I would return to any of them. I really enjoy them. And even carrying on at Marvel, like I love Doctor Strange, for the same reason. Because he's an interesting psychological case on his own, and then he's moving through all these metaphysical worlds. So you get to play with themes of spirituality and metaphysics and psychology and emotion. So I really love those characters. But the trick for me over the years is when you go back to a character, or if you're writing them for the first time, is trying to find that corner, and it's hard the longer the characters have been around, find that corner of the psyche that maybe no one has found before. Right. So it's like you got to get this drill and keep drilling deeper until you hit something that no one else has hit before, and hopefully you can illuminate that character in a new way.
Right.
Well, he's not stopping us if you want to ask me anything else.
Start talking about Spider-Man.
I'm sorry about Kraven all day.
I think Kraven's Last Hunt would make a great animated movie. I think, like one of these, nice 90-minute animated movies. Then you don't have to worry that much that your lead actor is buried for a third of the story. I always thought if we're going to adapt Kraven as a live action, that would be the biggest problem you'd have. You have some actor you're paying $30 million to, and then you tell him for a third of the story you're going to be buried alive.
Are you surprised that it hasn't been adapted yet? It's one of the most iconic Spider-Man stories.
I'm surprised. So can we do one more question, or are we done?
You know what? You can do one more question, because I like these guys.
Okay.
And I hope it's a good one.
No pressure. And it's not about Spider-Man. So about Spider-Man. Any more Constantine questions?
Do you have any more? Do you want to continue with Constantine? Do you have any plans to go anywhere else with him?
That decision's above my pay grade, you know, but if they came to me tomorrow and said, we're doing another Constantine for CWC, I wouldn't let them finish the sentence before I'd say yes. I really had such a good time on this project. I was saying to somebody before, sometimes the creative process is really, really great, and the finished product doesn't necessarily live up to what you had in your head. Other times the finished product is great, but it was hell getting there. This project, from beginning to end, everyone I worked with along the way, it was just great. And then to see the finished product, and it's really good, it doesn't happen all the time. Thank you. So I would do another Constantine in a heartbeat.
Bringing you into the fold to work on these.
Well, I've been doing animation for like 16 years now. So I've done a lot of animation. I've worked on 3 of these previous movies, and I think it sort of bounced off the Justice League Dark movie somehow. And I think the fact that I'd worked on these characters in the comics as well. But this was an interesting one because it was done through CWC, so it wasn't done through the usual Warner Brothers animation channels. It was a whole different group of people. People from Greg Berlanti's company and from the CW. So it was interesting. I was working with a whole different group, and it made the project that much more exciting.
How did the CWC angle affect your approach to actually writing the script?
It didn't. That's the great part, because I just wrote a 90-minute movie, and then after the script, and I had to keep it in the back of my mind. It was going to be broken up in chapters, but scenes have if you write a scene right, they're going to have those climaxes and those endings, so you can break them anyway. But I just wrote the whole movie, and then after the fact, everyone got together and figured, well, what can we pull out for these 5-minute segments? If I would have had to write it in 5-minute segments and then put it together and add more for a movie, that could have been really complex and difficult.
Yeah. Since you've had some experience with the recent New 52 animated movies, do you have the opportunity to pitch future home release movies that you would love to write? And if so, why don't we have Justice League International yet?
That's a really good question. 99 out of 100 times they come to me and they say, this is what we're doing next. I've worked on just this year 3 different projects, and none of them were initiated by me. They come to me because they have their reasons why they're choosing this character or that character, and off we go.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.